Welcome to the Aussie Game podcast, where we talk all things Australian football. Another big episode coming up. Mopper, we've got Matildas going to run through their match against New Zealand on Friday night. Of course, got an overseas wrap, including a key Socceroo returning to training, which is very nice to see. We've got an A-Leagues wrap, including a massive Sydney derby with plenty of talking points. Our first inaugural Australian Championship finalists have been decided, and we're going to wrap everything up with our team of the week. How are you going, Mopper?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Chief, and thanks for the introduction. First, I just want to shout out to the Heatley family and send our condolences and all our thoughts after their tragic loss. And Warren Heatley showed her bravery as she represented the Matildas at centre back. All our love, thoughts, and prayers are with the Heatley family after that tragic loss. So I just want to make that special mention because I'm sure the whole Matildas family is behind Warner and her family tonight.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Well said. And Winona Heatley obviously playing with a heavy heart on Friday night after the loss of her brother. So let's start with the Matildas, mate, because they played New Zealand the other night. Gosford packed out stadium up there, 5-0 win for the Matildas. Very dominant performance. I'd just say that New Zealand just weren't up to the standard. Let's go through the starting 11, mate. We had Mackenzie Arnold in goals. Across the back line, we had Courtney Nevin, Winona Heatley, Steph Catley had the armband, and then we had Ellie Carpenter. In the midfield, we had, in the base of that midfield, we had Kyra Cooney-Cross and Katrina Gorry, very familiar players with each other, and Van Egmond played in front of them, and then out wide, we had, of course, Amy Sayer and Hayley Raso, and Caitlin Ford led the line. So what did you make of that lineup, mate?
Well, with Kennedy suspended, it was Joe's big call, what would happen in the centre of defence. And we've finally seen Steph Catley move into that centre-back position, which I think Joe's timing, it couldn't have come better. We've wondered what he'd do. He would have been concerned about a couple of pre-season games friendlies that we've had before, and we've seen Catley being moved in the centre defence. Now, the question remains, is this temporarily because Kennedy is obviously suspended? But then I note that Claire Hunt was also on the bench. So is this Catley's new position in the Matildas as she plays it for Arsenal when they moved her into the central defence to charge to the Champions League campaign last year? Nevin, is she our natural left back? She's definitely one for me that we can all get behind. And if we move forward to Catley, so I think her experience in the centre pairing there makes a hell of a difference. Although New Zealand, not the strongest side, but they have been up to world ranking of 22 in the past, but have dropped back in the last year to 33. So still competitive team. And I think the lineup represented a really strong lineup. And I think with the big one for me, Catley in the centre defence, the midfield pretty much explains itself. And obviously Amy Sayer gets a start in there with this combination, which I was very hopeful of because I wanted to see her play with Ford. I want to see her play with Raso because we haven't really seen Amy Sayer play with those type of players as much in the last 12 months. And she's really building after a strong season in Sweden. So we all know the rest of the players are pretty familiar. Van Egmond in there, and obviously Cooney-Cross 6 to 8, looking to pick the ball up. And once again, she has another strong game. So I think this is a really good sign of probably where we're heading, with probably a couple of injuries. Obviously, Sam Kerr rested, slight calf strain potentially. It'll be interesting to see what happens with obviously a long flight out here and a long flight back. And I know Chelsea plays a day later than her Aussie counterparts from Arsenal, so it'd be interesting to see how fit Sam Kerr actually is for that second game.
All right, let's talk through the lineup, mate. So Mackenzie Arnold, obviously in goals, didn't have a lot of work to do. She made one smart save from my memory, but a bit hard to judge her performance when she didn't really have a lot to do. Let's talk about that back line. Ellie Carpenter on the right, bombing forward as we have seen in the past and as we expect from Carpenter. New combination there with Heatley and Catley, as you said. One thing I particularly noticed about that combination, and we've spoken about this before, about Joe Montemurro's want for ball-playing centre-backs, and both Catley and Heatley, their ability to pick out whether it was Gorry, but mainly it was Cooney-Cross, picking her out in space and really starting our attacks
They're
from
our
there.
best
So
two. Yeah, they're our best two ball players, and Heatley's even played a deep lying six many times for her club and country. So they're interested to see how this combination goes.
yeah, and I think, not to diminish what Claire Hunt can do, but I just don't think at the moment she has the same ability as those two. So I do wonder if, and this is one of the last windows before the Asian Cup. So we're really going to want to see close to our strongest lineup to see those combinations working. So I do wonder if that was a bit of a nod. I don't know if Kennedy, even if she was available, whether she would have been picked in there, to be honest. So I think that might be the start of the combination that we're starting to look for in Catley and Heatley there. And then Nevin, quite solid down the left, combined well with Sayer at times. Sometimes the touches were a little bit off, not so much from Nevin herself, but just the combinations. But the more game time she has there and the more familiar she will be. She's got actually plenty of caps. I think she was interviewed before the game and 40 odd caps for the Matildas. So she's starting to build some experience in that left back spot as well. But I wanted to ask you particularly about Cooney-Cross and Katrina Gorry in that midfield. We know how well that they worked in combination and have done around that World Cup time in 2023. We obviously would like to see Cooney-Cross a bit further forward, but I think in combination, those two work really well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Gorry just allows Cooney-Cross just to get that little edge box to box midfielder, which I believe Cooney-Cross is much better higher up the pitch, even though she can still play that six. It just allows a little bit more freedom. I mean, if we can transition, especially with these centre backs, it's Joe's style. He wants that ball played through, and I think it'll suit Cooney-Cross's game with those two centre back ball playing defenders much better because we'll be able to move the ball a lot quicker. They're sharp, these two. Rona Heatley's a dead eye for the passing the ball, and so is Catley. It'll just transition our ball game so much, and I think they just fit their style. And Cooney-Cross getting further advanced up the pitch. You've seen what she's done in the second half with when she's afforded that little bit of space and opportunity of what she can do. Not just so much emphasising on the goal, but her football play in general. So Gorry just gets in there, sits in there, does her job. She's done it for years and years and years. Probably her underlying ability is just to sit in that hole. So the difference is with Gorry, can she hold and play that ball as well as what she's done in the past? That'll be my challenge to Gorry because I think that position is still up for grabs, depending what he does with Hunt and Kennedy, because we all know Heatley can play that six as well, but we haven't seen her with Heatley in that six with Cooney-Cross. So we'll have to wait and see if that ever eventuates, but definitely Cooney-Cross further up the pitch. We're going to be much better in transition. I'm sure Caitlin Ford, Raso, Sayer, Kerr, they're going to want her higher up the pitch if we're going to advance deep in these tournaments. You can see even against England, and the big games that we've played, we've lacked that at the back playing out. And I've got no doubt once Joe's seen this now and seen what Catley's done in Arsenal, this Catley to cross and it's going to happen a lot more. And Gorry just sitting in there protecting the back four.
Yeah, I think Cooney-Cross is really smart finding the space, and some might come down to the opponent, but yeah, her ability to find those little pockets and then be able to drive forward really started a lot of our attacks. It worked
It's
well.
important too, sorry, Chief, to cut you off. It's important that because Carpenter bombs on a lot, yeah. So Gorry's got to obviously protect that right side as well. Not as much on the left with Nevin. She's a bit more balanced. But we want Carpenter to go forward as well. So Gorry tucks in that hole as well if Cooney-Cross sits a little bit deeper as well. So that's another advantage of playing these type of players.
Yeah, I heard someone mention the other day the idea of a Gorry, Cooney-Cross, Wheeler midfield three that just kind of rolling and I mean, it's quite mobile, which would be pretty exciting. But let's talk about a bit further forward because the front four, as I said, Van Egmond sat in the 10 and then Sayer played off the left, Raso off the right, which he's done plenty of times. Forward leading the line, what did you make of that, particularly when you got, obviously Kerr, she's resting an injury, but Heyman on the bench, a probably more natural striker than Ford, but Ford gets the nod the other night.
It's mobility and movement off the ball and press. I reckon that's exactly what Joe wants. Again, it's just playing style, isn't it? It's like that false nine, and we've seen a lot of Ford outside, but as she gets older, I think inside 10, 9 is probably her game now. You can see that with Arsenal. She's lacking minutes on that left-hand side, but she can play a variety across the front. She's so natural with the ball at her feet. It's a real advantage having her there, and it's probably, going to be utilised a lot more than what we probably think. But because Ford's such a talent, back to goal, front to goal, movement, she's just a top quality player. So anywhere across that front line, she's going to be absolute handful, and will provide that defensive press, the transition, as well that Joe will want. And it's just, to me, it's a perfect tactical movement to put her in there because, especially with Kerr building fitness, and she's still got a long way to go as well, Kerr, to get back to that sharp best that we've seen.
It was a really comprehensive win. So 15 shots on target to only 2 from New Zealand, and even in that, I felt like we were very wasteful in front of goal. Could easily have been a bigger winning margin, including Steph Catley missing a penalty late. But I think despite our dominance, we were making a few wrong decisions in that final third. But let's just go through some of the goals. So Amy Sayer opened the scoring. This one dropped to Cooney-Cross. Caitlin Ford actually made a really smart run to drag away a couple of defenders, but Sayer held her space really well on that left, took a nice touch and then slotted home, which was good for her, but really well put together once that ball broke for Cooney-Cross.
Oh, absolutely. And, Sayers missed a lot of football in the previous years. In the last 12 months, she's really solidified her position over in Sweden and has really got into this Matildas side consistently over the last 12 months. And it's her confidence and form is showing, and just took that nicely. And yeah, good finish. And mate, that would have done her the world of good, especially starting and then scoring first. You couldn't ask for a better script.
Yeah, the second goal for Raso, who I thought was probably one of the biggest culprits for making those wrong decisions in the final third, but she got her name on the score sheet, keeper out of position, and just bent it into the bottom left corner. So well taken from there. Ellie Carpenter was our third goal scorer. She missed an absolute sitter in the first half, but made amends somewhat in the second half. Again, it was one of those ones where the keeper just got caught out of position. So I'm not sure how much the keeper was at fault, but a few times there just got caught in the wrong spot. So yeah, Carpenter got a name on the score sheet. And what about Cooney-Cross's goal? This is probably the highlight of the night.
She's just going to another level, isn't she? She's just a star, young lady on the rise, but we've seen her for so long, but she's still so young and in that great system with Arsenal, and hasn't seen too much game time, but has definitely built up game time in the last few weeks. She's just a star on the rise, and I think ready to take her next game to the next level in the Asia Cup. I think she'll be one of the players of the tournament, and all her maturity that she's shown and development with Arsenal once she went over there from Victory is just going to show out. And she's going to obviously, I think, in the next 12 months push for that Arsenal starting lineup. And I think you're going to see a player as good as what we've seen in Matilda's jersey for a very long time.
She seems to have lately a bit more of an edge, a bit more steel about her as well. Like you can kind of see it in her eyes and how focused she is. She's always got that fun side off the field, a bit of a larrikin and a bit of a prankster around the team. But it definitely seems that level of focus now. And Steph Catley, there was a quote from her in the lead up to the game about, I'm sure it was in reference to Cooney-Cross not getting the game time, and she just reiterated that what a great environment they've got there at
Oh,
Arsenal, where she's
absolutely.
training with some absolute superstar
Yep.
players and she's not getting a moment on the ball. So it's a great environment for a young player to learn in.
Oh, it's and that you have to be mentally patient, don't you? Because you can get frustrated. We spoke about this for a while. Should we be concerned with the amount of minutes? But she's had to be so patient. And like you said, though, the ultimate outcome is that she's still part of that squad. She's still getting some time, but she's playing with the best of the best. And when you play with the best of the best, and you build your minutes, it's just going to be one step after another. The good thing is off away from Arsenal is that she's consistently started with the Matildas for a fair while, and she's leveraged off that by not playing with Arsenal. And there's been plenty of international, like World Cup and now Asia Cup, but there's been plenty of games, plenty of tournaments, and she's just springboarded off that. And I think she's ready to explode. As you'd see, she's done this before. These special shots. Where if you're familiar with her, go look at a highlights reel because yeah, it's not the first one she scored like this. And yeah, she's a massive
Germany
talent.
a couple of years ago, was
Yeah,
it? Last year, maybe?
100%. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right on the money there, mate. And yeah, it's just great that she gets to form that midfield, and if we can provide that early ball from the back, and she gets any space, that's why I like to see her push up in that 8, because I just think if she can get that second, third pass, you know, the Matildas are going to be in a great position to move the ball. And yeah, you're right. We need to clean up a few of those opportunities. But I think as we get sharper and get closer to March, I think we're going to be bang on. This team's looking a lot better, solidity wise too. We've seen a 6 to 12 months of transition with the coaches and the playing style and that adapt. And you know, everyone would have loved to see where that level's at against England, but we're unfortunately with 10 players, we're never going to see it. And now we are, because I'll tell you what, New Zealand's not a dud of a side, mate. That, like I said, they were 22, 23 last year going into that World Cup, and they've dropped off a little since then, but they're still on the top in the 30s, so they're no duds. So yeah, we're really rising to the occasion, and congratulations to Gosford. The brand of the Matildas just continues to live on, doesn't it? What an atmosphere! Anyone that was there at the ground, what a great opportunity to see some of the best Matildas we've ever seen, and what a great side this is going to lead up to in the Asia Cup. The excitement's just going to build on from here.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. The final goal of the night fell to Katrina Gorry, who made a bit of it herself, actually. She won the ball, played through the midfield, ball out wide, continued her run to the box, and had a nice finish and a nice celebration as well. So, yeah, so that rounded out the scoring 5-0. As I said, Steph Catley missed a late penalty, but just the icing on the cake that would have been. But yeah, so what do you want to see as we head into the second game in this series on Tuesday in Adelaide?
Well, I'm looking at the a little bit further ahead with who has to get back, and Arsenal's got the early game on Saturday in England against Liverpool. So I'm thinking, does that mean Catley, Ford, and Cooney-Cross? Do they start because of that, or but those probably two, the latter, Cooney-Cross and Ford hasn't been starting week in, week out, so no real loss if they play a full game. But I think Catley, with that early game, I'm not sure if she'll start. I think maybe Hunt might come in, and this might just be me thinking too far ahead, but I'm thinking with a friendly, it's not like an international qualifier or anything. I think it's probably Hunt's time to come in. Where does Kennedy fit back in the squad too? And then obviously, Nevin, Sayer, they've finished their competition, so they're probably fully fit to go. Raso, good to see some game time. She hasn't had much time for Frankfurt, so yeah, probably a little bit indecisive in and finishing. Yeah, probably could put that down a bit of rustiness. She hasn't played week in, week out full games, but she's been coming off the bench. So I'd expect probably 3 or 4, with my biggest question marks being the Arsenal having to get back. I think we'll see Micah and for Arnold. I think they're penciled in for one game each. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what he does with those 3 players on Arsenal, and I'd love to see Charlie Rule. I'd love to see her get the opportunity, but that's only my preference. But yeah, the other teams, Claire Hunt and has got Aston Villa on Sunday. Kenny doesn't have to get back for London on the Sunday, and I think those later games will give the other girls an advantage if they're in discussions with those clubs, because the Women's Super League's quite tight. So I don't know, that might be a conversation that Joe's probably already had. And yeah, I'm sure there'll be 3 or 4 changes, and maybe, I don't think Kerr will, if she's carrying any injury, I don't think you'll see. She may be a little bit of cameo if she's 100%, but if she's not right, like they said, there's no point in playing her. She's got to travel back to London. That's not going to be ideal. So maybe Heyman starts, obviously, for that game in Adelaide.
Yeah, an absolute cracking crowd that's going to be at Adelaide as well. And as you said, the Matildas are as popular as ever as they travel around Australia as we lead into a couple of months out from the Asian Cup. Let's just have a quick chat, mate, because the junior Matildas, they had a match in the lead up to this game, which was a 1-1 draw with Thailand. And before that, they had a 2-0 defeat a couple of days earlier. The game against Thailand the other night on Friday, they were leading until pretty much a couple of minutes to go and unfortunately conceded a late one. So it was good to see them play in that lead up to that game, and there was definitely some talent on show. The Thailand team, not a bad team at all, actually. They probably dominated from the parts of the game that I saw, but good to get a hit out, and the more game time and the more continuity for these teams, the better.
Oh, look, just gives them takes advantage of the time wave. Yeah, just getting some girls together. I've seen them before the Matildas game, all proud there singing their national anthem. I thought that was really cool too. You can see that they're entrenched in that culture, which is fantastic. And yeah, look, just good to get a couple of hit outs. So we don't see much football from the junior Matildas. So any continuity of getting them together and investing in that, hats off to Football Australia, because the more we do that, the better we're going to be prepared in the future.
Yeah, and the young Matildas have had a couple of good results over the last couple of days as well. They had a 4-1 win today against Korea Republic. So yeah, good to see plenty of our national teams, the junior level, in some game time before the junior Matildas. So we'll leave the Tillies there. We look forward to watching them back in action on Tuesday night. Now, Moppy, you're going to give us a bit of a midweek wrap because there was plenty happening during the week.
Yeah, no sleep during the week for anyone. It was full on and no rest for the wicked. So we'll just start with the championship midweek. We had Middlesbrough go down 4-2 to Coventry. Both Aussie boys starting, McGree playing 59 minutes and Silvera played a full game, which was fantastic. There was an all-Aussie battle in the championship with Derby, Callum Elder beating Swansea's Cam Burgess 2-1, both playing full games with Elder picking up a nice assist. We've seen Watford play at a 1-1 draw against Preston with Irukunda coming off the bench in the 74th minute. No luck for Portsmouth. They went down to 10 men early and got thumped 3-0 to Sheffield United with Segedjic playing half a game. Hayden Matthews an unused sub. And then Blackburn go down 1-0 to QPR with a full game from Lewis Miller, but no Aussies made the QPR side. So very mixed results there in the championship midweek. We did see a Scotland All-Aussie battle as well in the Scotland Premier League. Motherwell, and they continued their great run too, beating Hibs 2-0 with a first start for Oscar Priestman. And didn't he do well? There was some good plaudits there. He didn't
Man, look,
disappoint.
the comments from the Motherwell fans after the game, they were just like, before they were like, "Oh, come on," and after the game, we're like, "Who's this guy?" Like,
Yeah, he didn't
like, yeah,
disappoint, did he? Stellar performance, yeah.
man of the
And
match, yeah.
great review, and yeah, we'll talk more about their second game, but Motherwell's moved up to equal third there and going really strong. Johnny Katrumbis, Mr. Consistent for Motherwell, also played a strong 62 minutes. The Aussie boys on the other side from Hibs, Idale and Boyle, have both started but were both substituted. They're now equal with Motherwell, as I said. Hibs and Motherwell are equal on points in the Asian Champions League action. So what an exciting week we had for our Aussie teams. Melbourne City pull off a massive result, beating Johar Dual at home 2-0. Maxi Caputo scoring early again, goes from strength to strength with the opener in the 3rd minute. Mamadi seals it late. And Beach, well, the plaudits just keep coming. Another 9 saves, 6 inside the box, just incredible. And they moved to outright second after 5 games. And that's something to get excited about because we have not seen the Australian teams at all compete in the Asian Championships for Asian Champions League for a fair while. So what a great start from Melbourne City. They just continue to produce. Over the other side, we go to Macarthur, and they go behind early, but they recover to beat Taipo 2-1, and that means qualifying for the quarterfinals as they lead the group now with 1 game to go. And Luke Vickery, what a story this is, the former Western United product, off the bench with 2 massive goals. The 20-year-old celebrates a brace and a great confidence from the former Western United product. So what an outstanding week for Asian Champions League for Melbourne City and Macarthur.
I'll just butt in there, mate, because it's so important to get these wins because the better we do in these competitions, the more likely we get more spots as we go forward. So at the moment, we've got one guaranteed in the ACL Elite and one in the ACL 2. But if these teams continue to perform, we might move into kind of one guaranteed and one playoff spot in the elite competition. And then there's the potential to go two guaranteed and one playoff if we jump up one spot further. So it's very important for these teams to keep performing and keep winning in this competition so we get more spots opened up.
Absolutely. And the way we're going, we're looking very strong. Europa Conference League found Aberdeen played a 1-1 draw with Noah. Milanovic come off the bench in the last 20 minutes, so that was good. We're seeing Aussie in European action. And early on, just after we recorded in the week, Ajdin O'Neill was suspended, but his New York side picked up a massive 1-0 win over Philly, and now obviously played into Miami this morning, which we'll touch base on in the semi-final. Obviously, the winner goes to the cup final there. We'll report on that one a bit later.
All right, mate. Let's go into some more recent events. I mentioned in the intro that there's a big Socceroo back, and it's our biggest in Harry Souttar back in training for Leicester. So what a good sight that is to see. Been out for the best part of a year with an Achilles injury, but back in training for Leicester, and I'm sure that he will have his eye on that March window to be brought in for the Socceroos. So probably a discussion for another day whether he can disrupt that solid middle three, but let's just take it for what it is at the moment to see him back in training and doing really well.
Yeah, everyone's big hanging to see him back, and after such a long layoff, and we wish Harry Souttar all the best in his pre-work as he continues to work through that, and can't wait to see him back full fitness and hopefully some game time. Maybe January. Maybe he might get some game time after a good strong, prep for in December. What do you think? Do you think January's
Well,
probably too early?
no, not necessarily. There'll be a heap of games in December, and then maybe bring him back a bit fresher in January. And I was just going to say, we know how good his ability is to come in. Of course, he played in that 2022 World Cup after his ACL injury on the back of pretty much no preparation. And he was one of our best in that tournament.
Yeah,
So
definitely. Yeah, good
doesn't
pickup.
need much. Yeah. All right. Elsewhere in the championship, Middlesbrough beat Derby 2-1 with Riley McGree getting 36 minutes off the bench, and Sammy Silveri was an unused sub. Callum Elder plays a full game, and he's played 4 games in a row against Aussie counterparts, 2 wins, 2 losses. So squaring that one, Callum Elder. Blackburn drew 1-1 away to Wrexham with Lewis Miller playing a full game. Swansea continued to slide, unfortunately, losing 3-2 after being 2-0 up, with West Brom scoring 3 second-half goals, sinking the Swans to 21st position, equal with Portsmouth in the relegation zone. And new coach Vitor Matos loses his first 2 games in charge. And then Portsmouth, they lost 1-0 to Bristol City. Segacic starts and plays 81 minutes. Hayden Matthews was an unused sub, but Pompey down in the relegation zone. Plenty of pressure on Pompey and their coach.
Yeah, just write the championship off, eh? There wasn't much good news story out of the championship this week, but as we know, there's so many rounds, so hopefully they can bounce back pretty quick. Both teams.
Yeah, definitely. All right, League One. Wigan drew 0-0 with Stevenage, with Rafael Borges Rodriguez and Tyrese Francois both starting. Port Vale Joe Gauci, they go down 1-0 to Lincoln, and they remain last in League One. Cardiff, on the other hand, they win 3-0, remain top, and Alex Robinson comes on for a late cameo in that win. So, yeah, got Aussie representation at both ends of the table in League One.
Yeah, I'm sure Robertson will be looking to start a few more games coming up, but they're high flying Cardiff, so it's going to be hard to break into that side. And it's not looking good for Port Vale, but they're losing tight games. They're not getting beat by much. So and Wigan, they're nice and solid in there as well. We move up to Scotland, and Hearts played a tight 0-0 draw with Motherwell. They were the informed team, Motherwell, and they got another important point against the league leaders. And Motherwell had the better chances in this game as well, but the spoils are shared. Devlin plays a full game for Hearts, and Johnny Katrumis plays 84 minutes, and my mate Stam Telopoulos plays 11 minutes off the bench. Unfortunately, after the player of performance during the midweek, Osip Priestman then goes back to an unused sub. So, yeah, not sure about that one, but at least he's getting recognised midweek, as we said.
Can I ask you about one of those players? Not Stamatolopoulos, won't make you say that one again, but
It's a tough one.
Johnny Katrumbis. Do you reckon he's any shout for the Socceroos?
Well, he's
He's
been
a
consistently playing every
he's
week.
yeah, he's can play both on the right and the left, consistent. I'd probably put him in that mold of that kind of Italiano, like if depending on the game time and what he can do. But yeah, 27, I think. So do you think that
Yeah,
he's on Popovic's radar?
I don't think he is. I think we would have seen him already. I think March window is going to be the cutthroat one. It's just such a shame that there's such a gap in between, but obviously there's so much European football as well to go on. But yeah, I just think it's too late. We might see him after the World Cup because he's been ever consistent in that side. So, doesn't play many full games, always seems to get pulled off with 10, 15 to go. But yeah, look, it's definitely an option for the future. I would never rule him out, especially playing at the level he's playing at. He's playing consistently. So it'd be good to see him at some stage.
Yeah, I think there'd have to be a few injuries for him to have a look in. I'll say that much. But we were struggling for
Yeah,
options at
we've seen
left
some
back and
injuries and we
left.
haven't
So
seen him, have we? So that's going to be a challenge.
oh, good. All right, Dundee United, they secure a draw against Kilmarnock 1-1 with Zach Sapsford playing 77 minutes and Ryan Strain getting 76 minutes as well. Keanu Bacchus plays a full game for St Mirren, but they go down 3-1 to Dundee FC. Over to Germany, mate. Heartbreaking for St Pauli, losing 3-1 to Bayern Munich. Jackson Ovo played a full game. Connor Metcalf got a couple of minutes off the bench, but unfortunately, St. Pauli conceded two in stoppage time when it looked like they were headed for a 1-1 draw. So not great news for our Socceroos, but take the silver lining that they were competitive right to the end against one of the best teams in the world. Unfortunately, the news doesn't get any better for Matt Ryan, whose Levante lost 2-0 to Athletic Club, meaning that Levante now sit second last in La Liga. This one was not great news that we heard during the week. Noah Bodic suffered a serious injury during training for Austria Vienna, and he was diagnosed with a broken ankle and torn syndesmotic and medial ligaments. So he'll be out of action for 6 to 9 months. So yeah, put a line through him for any World Cup hopes, unfortunately. But we wish Noah Bodic a speedy recovery. In the Eredivisie, NAC Breda, they lost 1-0 to Excelsior. 90 minutes for Max Ballard, but Breda now sit second last. Heracles continue their push up the table. They drew 1-1 with Fortuna Sittard. Ajdin Hrustic plays 90 minutes as they go 4 matches unbeaten, Heracles, so certainly making their move. ADO Den Haag, they won again. They go 8 points clear with a game in hand. This was a 3-0 win over VBB Venlo, where Cam Pupion got an assist in 75 minutes. In Croatia, Hajduk Split drew 1-1 with NK Varazdin. Fran Karacic gets 29 minutes off the bench, but can't get his team the win. However, they remain top for now. Anthony Calick was an unused sub in this one. Over in Switzerland, Sion drew 1-1 with Lugano. Liam Chipperfield got the goal for Sion in his 72 minutes. He did recently play in the Swiss under-21 team in their Euro qualifiers, so could be a bit of an indication of where his allegiances lie, but I guess we'll have to wait and see, Mopper.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see whether Australia's even looked at it or looked at him or even had that conversation. But yeah, we all know, a couple of the younger players can switch it up. It's only the senior cap that counts, and so many as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see where he goes from there. And I think being in that spotlight probably helps him around that Swiss environment. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what happens in the future if he can solidify his own form and own goal scoring form and push on with his career. So very interesting choice, but one that he has the opportunity to make. All right, over in USA, we've talked about New York City with Ajdin O'Neill being suspended for that crucial game against Philly, but they go down 5-1 to a very powerful Inter Miami performance. Ajdin O'Neill's season with New York now comes to an end. Socceroos midfielders played 90 minutes but couldn't stop an absolute rampant Inter Miami, who showed their class and are absolutely dominant and make their way into the cup final. And Vancouver Whitecaps beat San Diego 3-1 with Giuseppe Villani gets a couple of minutes off the bench as Vancouver make the MLS final next weekend. So we do have some representation in the cup final of the Major League Soccer over in America. So that's great news.
Pretty tough
For
ask for
oh,
Vancouver.
yeah, and Messi didn't even score any of those five, mind
Uh,
you, either. So, well,
just
you
saving
never know.
them up.
Football's
Saving
a
them
funny
up.
game. You never know what might happen. And Vancouver is certainly a nice win over San Diego. Hopefully, they put up a good fight in the Major League final, which is next week.
Thomas Muller hat trick, Messi hat trick in the final.
Well, hey, it could all happen. Vancouver's got a pretty solid side. So, 90 minutes, you never know. We've got a bit of a Joey's update. So, yes, they've got an important game too tonight. So, final game. But let's just cap up their week. They beat Jordan 1-0, and what a great start this one was. And look, that was so crucial in the outcome of this table this week.
So the host, Jordan were the hosts in this one too, for
Yeah,
these games. Yeah, they would have had a bit of home support.
oh, absolutely. But Max Court, have you seen that stunning goal? That if you haven't seen it, jump on X and see if you can find it. Got an absolute smasher and great winner that set us up beautifully as we played Bhutan. They were hard to break down, but we got over them 3-0, and then we had much better football against a weaker nation, Philippines, as we beat them 6-0. And my super subs, Hazarati, scored 4 goals. Oliveira scored one and Shea scored one as well. So 6-0. And it sets up a final match against Iraq, as I said, early Monday morning, with a draw or better being enough to qualify for the Under-17 Asian Cup. So hopefully they can do that. Job will be done, which obviously a really important note to make that the Asia Cup doubles as a World Cup qualifiers, quarterfinal or better for the Asia Cup. So it's a must draw or must win tonight. And Jordan had a draw with Iraq, so they're about that same competitiveness style. So let's hope the Joeys can bring it home tomorrow morning. And that is the overseas wrap as we move back home. Any standouts there for you, Chief? It was a tough week for some Aussies, but on the international stage, we've seemed to shine.
Yeah, I just want to touch quickly on the Joeys in regard to obviously they need to get the job done against Iraq, but once they make that Asian Cup, it seems as though even the underage tournaments are expanding to the 48 team format World Cup. So we saw obviously the 20s earlier this year needing to get to the semi-finals to qualify, but I think it's going to be quarterfinal or better. But it's important that once they do make these quarterfinals, it does get them to the World Cup, but it also means that they're not going to have to go through this round of qualifying again to make the Asian Cup. So yeah, you kind of get rewarded for multiple things if they make the final 8 in this tournament. So that's going to be really important, and it seems as like there's a good bunch of kids coming through. So let's get the job done against Iraq and then move on to other things, because those tournaments are going to come pretty quickly. The Asian Cup's early next year, and then the World Cup will be late next year. So it's all happening.
Yeah, definitely. All right. And back home, have we ever seen a more exciting week in the A-League, Chief? It's an absolute logjam with the ladder, competitive on all levels of all teams. And then, wow, what game? There were so many great games that stood out this week. And, when we thought that some teams were just going to be flying away, they're just being caught again. And some underdog performances, heroics, crowds are back. What else the A-League had? It was just a fantastic weekend of football, wasn't it?
It's a bit of a cliche sometimes to say, oh, in this league, anyone could beat anyone. But when you see the results of this weekend, it really does ring true. And if you're off your game a bit, there's enough quality amongst other teams to get the job done. But the highlight was certainly the Sydney Derby last night. I have to say, it's hands down the best atmosphere of any A League fixture. It outdoes the Melbourne Derby. just the scene, the constant noise. There's like this clear divide. It's east versus west. It's not. It's very geographical the way that this derby is split. We see all different reasons why cities have derbies, but this is a very clear divide. And when you tuned in last night, and for those that were out the ground, it's just a different feeling for any other game that you watch during the season. So credit to both sets of fans who created that atmosphere last night, and what a spectacle it was.
Oh, it's just such a great game to watch, wasn't it? It was just so good. And yeah, look, that's just going to build and build and build as just a hot ticket, isn't it? And I know you said hands down, Chief, but in the second half there was a hand up, which caused plenty of controversy as well. But let's break down the game. Wanderers end Sydney FC's 4-game winning streak with a 1-0 win. Wanderers with a better team for the first 50 minutes, and wasn't Tallow very unhappy at the first half performance in Sydney FC. But Western Sydney also in the first 50 minutes didn't capitalise of their dominance really until the moment where Quayle pouncing on a loose ball in the box. Poor clearance by the Sydney FC defender, wasn't it? But it was a difficult ball in. It just like popped up there and it was hard to clear. But anyway, he head straight back and Quayle pounced, and then the celebration started, and then he went off injured.
And then he went off.
Yeah,
But
it's
but
added to the theatre.
Harper was saying in the commentary that Quayle puts himself about, and he makes sure the central defenders are up for a game. He certainly did that. Unfortunately, had to come off injured, but hopefully it's just a knock and not a soft tissue that'll keep him out for a long time.
Absolutely. Then the intensity just intensified, didn't it? After that, the crowd was bumping again, and yeah, just the level just went up. And Sydney FC then made a triple change. We'd seen a bit of a shift, but of momentum as Wanderers started to sit a bit deeper. But there was a few unhappy Sydney FC players getting pulled off, wasn't it? And yeah, there was just looks eyes of steel. I wouldn't like to be a Monday's review session on this one because whether it was right or wrong, well, we'll never know. But it's debatable. They lost anyway, but the first half was poor. But yeah, some interesting calls there. Yeah, it's going to be no coffee on the hill on Monday morning, let me tell you. But and then the big moment, the no penalty call, Panzopoulos handball in the box, and I think if you're a neutral fan or a football referee, I think you'd say 99 times out of 100 that this would be a handball. But this time they reviewed it and said no. Obviously, Panzopoulos generally was great, but also constantly stirring up trouble, which again just added to the theatre and entertainment, didn't it? I've got to give him credit. He was just like a super actor, wasn't he? He was just like, it was just unreal to watch. And, I thought the referee, although he handed out lots of yellow cards, I thought he handled himself really well and controlled the game really well. There's not going to be ever anything said much about the referee, but I think his control and discipline and controlling moments was just as good as the game. And you've got to give credit where credit's due. But what a theatre and performance. Deserved even a bigger crowd, but I'm sure many eyes were glued to the theatre of the derby.
Yeah, I think, you're right, Alex King. Yeah, he's got his critics, but I thought he was good last night. And he kind of leaned into what the game was, and he let the game flow wherever he possibly could. Let some of the tougher challenges go, and try to let it go. I think the penalty call was the wrong decision. Obviously, he's made the call on the spot, but then VAR hasn't seen anything. Don't know how they haven't seen anything, but yeah. Look, Panazopoulos was obviously the man in the spotlight there, but he threw out some quotes during the week, stirred it up from the beginning, and then he was public enemy number one, as much as Sydney FC fans and players were concerned. But it was just everything. It was the tongue out. It was he slid tackled Al Hassan Toure on the side there, and then hurdled back over him at a time, and then he ankle taps Kevin Ishmears to get his yellow card. It was just, but you're right. It just added to the theatre, and it was just so good. Yeah, good for the league that the Wanderers get the win. We said last week that in derbies, form goes out the window, and it seemed to last night. But I think they did a good job. They contained Joe Lolly, who had been the danger man for Sydney FC. So they obviously identified him as the threat. But look, overall, it was just a magic spectacle, and it's what we want the A League to get back to more often than not. But it certainly sets up a very interesting return Sydney derby, which should be at Allianz Stadium, and
31st
hopefully
of
they get it.
January, my friend.
There you
Hottest
go,
ticket
you
in
got it.
town. That would be packed out on that take of a game like this. And yeah,
Yeah.
31st of January will be interesting where the teams are position wise on the table, but that'll be an absolute cracker. I think enemy number one's going to come up against, but I'm 40,000 fans, but I think Western Sydney Wanderers will be there in numbers as well. So I'm sure he'll be well protected.
Do you think Pandazopoulos will get booed when he gets the ball from the Sydney FC
Oh,
home team?
that's just again, it just adds to the entertainment. He did it with a smile on his face, didn't he? He did it professionally and just yeah, it was like I said for the neutral fans and that character, and I'm sure the Sydney FC fans will love to get some stuck into him when he goes back over the bridge there, and it'll just create more excitement. And can't wait to see what. Comments are made before that fixture because it'll be prime time. School holidays probably at the end, but 31st of January, watch out. It's going to be an absolute cracker.
I think Harps and Robbie Thompson said it well in commentary though that the game was played in a decent spirit. There was no malice or violence or anything like that. It was very very competitive, and you didn't get a moment on the ball, and it was aggressive, but it didn't ever kind of boil over into anything else. So
No,
it's
that's
kind
right.
of
100%.
perfectly what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Chief, we better move on to the other game. And, well, Michael Valkanis is just creating some great atmosphere up there, isn't he? Comments Alexander the Great, the army, the physical takedown, the warriors, the war. it's it's incredible and it's working. And it's absolutely working. They beat Melbourne Victory 1-0, who are on the ropes. But I just want to, before I tuck into this game, I want to just look at Brisbane Roar's finishes and what they've had. And they've been finishing 12th, 9th, 8th, and 11th. The last time they made the finals was 1920. They come fourth with Robbie Fowler at the helm. And Scott McDonald and Roy Donovan were the top goal scorers. So the fans have had a long time to wait. I know that's not over a decade, but in the A-League, it seems like ages that they've had any success. And weren't the crowd excited? They're up there just bumping, and Val Canis is just creating this great story up there, isn't he? And they will not be beaten. And the Warriors and all that goes along with it. And it shook Victory off their game again. And they've done that to many teams, haven't they? And let's crack into it now as Brisbane have 4 wins in a row and they sit at the top in second position. Like, just unbelievable. They've only conceded 3 goals in 6 games. Sam Klein scored the only goal, drilling it in the roof of the net. Raw win the battles in every part of the field. And crowd was 8,218, which is really the biggest home crowd all year for them. And even though the pitch was awful after some concerts, they're right into this side, aren't they? And Valkanis is absolutely leading by example and leading the way and showing them how tough and resilient they are. And they're a feared team to play. On the other side of the couch, though, Chief, Victory, 4th loss in 5 games. They are last. They've scored just 4 goals, 2 against Perth and 2 against Jets. Genero then gets sent off for a violent conduct late, which means he's suspended. Marta's on the bench. The only positive is Vupelet's back. This could be a massive inclusion back from injury. But the big question for you is, Chief, and I don't like talking this, but the pressure's on. Will they sack Doles and bring in Aloisi? Is that something that the Victory will go to, even though the A-League is quite condensed?
Oh, geez, if it's not this week, it has to be close. Like, Victory fans are running out of patience. They do have a decent squad that they've put together. I just don't think it's gelling at the moment as it should. But yeah, look, they're in a world of hurt, and it doesn't seem to be getting any better for them. It was always going to be a tough game going up to Brisbane, but they just didn't really create much at all. And then John Ray getting sent off late, that was just pure frustration. He knew as soon as it went to review that he was going to be sent off. He was just waiting for the red card there on the sideline. So pure frustration. As you said, Luke coming on is a good indication for them going forward, but they can't rely solely on him as well. So, with those 4 goals they've scored, that does mean that there's 4 games there where they haven't scored as well. So, while they can get some goals, and we've probably seen the Glory been quite leaky, and we know the Jets can be leaky as well. So probably doesn't say much in a positive sense for where Melbourne Victory's at. I just want to touch on Brisbane Roar quickly on one of the quotes that Valkanis mentioned post-match, and I couldn't quite find it while you were talking, but it was along the lines of the question must have been about the pitch, but you mentioned someone in history saying, do you think that they went into battle and they complained about the terrain that they were battling on? So
I love it.
he's really just building that sense of, you
Yeah.
know, anyone, anywhere, doesn't matter the situation, we're going to take you on and we're going to beat you. So he's just creating that such a great atmosphere up there. The crowd was 8,218. You could definitely see a difference because they opened up different areas of the ground that they don't normally. Their biggest crowd of the season, and they just keep going up and up and up. So they don't have another home game for the rest of this calendar year, but early 2026. Yeah, look out because they're going to build some anticipation into that next game, and it should be a really good one. I did hear in the commentary though that that was Lucas Harrington's last game for the Brisbane Roar, so he'll be an important piece that they need to replace in that back line.
This is what I mean. With Major League now finishing the Cup finals this week, they're going to go into a break in pre-season. I just don't understand why the power brokers aren't loaning him back for a short stint. But anyway, I'm not.
They're back in March, I think. I was looking at that today, wondering what Aiden O'Neill would be doing, but I think they're back in March, and then they're going to break for the World Cup.
Okay. All right. Well, interesting times ahead, but there's a 3-month gap, and I'm sure they won't be doing anything in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So I don't see the harm, but hint, hint, nudge, nudge, get out and have a conversation because, or maybe they already have, and I'm being unfair, but I just think
He's
such
been
a
really good
waste.
this year, though, hasn't he,
Oh,
Harrington?
well, he's just gone from strength to strength with the under 20s, and and even started that last World Cup game there what they won. So he's been a real commanding presence, especially for such a young central defender. I think when you're young, I think central defence has got to be one of the harder positions to play because of the physicality and vice versa. And fully haven't grown yet, but yeah, he's a commanding presence, isn't he? And I still remember that goal he scored down the Sunshine Coast. It was just brilliant. So yeah, great future ahead for Harrington. Hopefully he can get some game time over there and can go step by step because I'd hate to see him go over there and just sit on the bench. But anyway, time will tell. He's good enough to give it a crack, so we'll see what happens. I just want to touch on Chief Victory's next 5 games. So Macarthur away, so that'll be a tough game. Then they host Adelaide United, and then they've got the derby again on the 20th of December. So I don't know where it's sitting, but then they're home to Wellington, home to Perth Glory. Doles did start when he had to take over last year, did start off slow again, and they did build, and you can't not take that into account. And they build up, and obviously you know what happened next. But just how well that team's going at the moment. We talked about their shape and formation. I still think I see the same concerns, even though they only conceded 1. But their attack should be much better. They've got the players to do it. They just can't seem to get that formational balance right within their side. So maybe Lupe might give them the spring of confidence, but now they've lost Jenner. That's a massive suspension, and he should know better than that when they need him the most. And I think that just probably sums up Victory's start to the year, really. All right.
Let's go Wellington, who beat Adelaide 2-1. Wellington's strong home form continues with 2 wins from 3. Let's go through the bit of the run-by-run play. So terrible marking from Adelaide, allowing Alex Rufer to ghost in at the far post and score his first goal completely unmarked. Rami Najreen then converted a penalty for a 2-0 lead. Adelaide keeper Josh Smits made 8 saves, so Wellington were quite dominant in this one. The Knicks keeper Josh Olawanyami, he made just 1, but it was an absolute beauty of a save down low with his right hand to deny Yaya Dakuli. Adelaide sub Joey Garuccio scored just 2 minutes after coming on. So Adelaide now 3 from 3 at home and 0 from 3 away. So certainly they're going to want to fix their away form. They're at home next week versus Brisbane, which would be a huge test if they want to continue their strong home form. So question for you, mate, how good do you think Wellington are? They've probably surprised. They've certainly surprised me. I'm certainly I think they've probably surprised others. They got the New Zealand derby next weekend, but do you think they can stay competitive throughout the season with this playing style?
Yeah, I thought when they played Auckland, I thought that was their true test of where they really stand. And they stood up, even though they lost that game and Auckland had 10 men, I still think they stood up. 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses. So they're consistent in a very even A League. I think they'll be thereabouts, somewhere between 6 to 10. I still think there's a lot of hard games to go for them. Away to Auckland's going to be hard, especially them losing to Newcastle. But they're just a solid team. They have impressed me a lot better than what I would have thought as well. I think you're spot on with your analysis there, and they're probably surprised a few people. But they're competitive, and away and at home, which is good. They haven't shown one or the other. They've travelled as just as good as well, so that's a good sign. So they're definitely going to be competitive. I just don't think they've got the quality to really break into that top four, top five. I really think they just sit on those edges, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see if they can maintain their position. But you know, Newcastle's in 11th on 6 points, and Wellington's in 6th on 8. So you could drop from 6th to 11th in 1 week. So yeah. But I'm pretty impressed still where they're at. I think they'd be very happy too, because I think it's been a very solid start. But in the remaining games, we had City draw 0-0 with Mariners. City made 3 changes from their ACL elite game midweek. City dominated but found it hard to break down the Mariners. Both teams, though, had goals correctly ruled offside. Andrew Redmayne obviously stepped up again, made 5 saves, really turning back the clock. Beach was solid again too, but only 1 win in 4 for City as they balance out Champions League and A-League action midweek and on the weekend. And same for the Mariners, who are defying the odds and still being competitive. So really important point for the Mariners, and I don't think City will be too concerned, especially when they're travelling back and forth in the Asian Champions League. In the other game, Newcastle beat Auckland 2-1. Wet, wet, wet. It was the battle of the slippery sides, wasn't it? The first loss of the season, though, for Auckland. Only their third loss ever at Geo Media Stadium. So massive win there for the Jets. I was looking forward to the response of the Jets, and they've delivered. Much needed win for them after losing 3 in a row. Goals come through Will Dobson, who scored an opportunist goal on the break. And then Vastadi then equalised for Auckland before Lachlan Rose scored the winner. The Jets withstood plenty of pressure laid on, with Dylan making some nice saves. Michael Wood almost created a howler when his roll stopped in a puddle, but he quickly atoned. So it was an absolute sensational win for Newcastle on the road to get that confidence back. And then we just seen, just as we went to air, Perth beat the Bulls 2-0 in a fantastic result for Perth. That's 2 in a row now, and they've now bounced up to 7 points. So that's a great win there for Perth away from home. Bulls obviously taking effect of the Asian Champions League 2 midweek, as we've seen with City as well, as they didn't pick up only a point there, City. All right, Chief, that leaves us with the ladder with Sydney FC first on 12 points, Brisbane, Auckland second and third, Adelaide are equal with Melbourne City on 4th and 5th. Wellington in 6th with Central Coast on 7th, Western Sydney on 7th on 8 points. Macarthur and Perth rack up 9th and 10th on 7. Newcastle up obviously to 11th on 6 points, and Victory are last on 4.
So tight, isn't it? Like from what is that, 4th to 11th, only 3 points between them. So, and then a little bit of a breakaway group with Auckland, Brisbane, and Sydney FC, but very tight league, which is what we want to see as much as possible, because there have been some other seasons where teams have run away with it, but it looks to be a tight one this year, and the more competitive, the better for the league.
Absolutely, and it'll just keep those crowds rolling in and create an exciting atmosphere. All right, Chief, we're over the Australian Championships now, and the first semi-final see Marconi booked their spot in the final with a 1-0 win with a goal from Matej Busek in the 80th minute. It was a great cross in and a well-timed run by Matej, getting in between 2 defenders for a sharp finish in front of a home crowd. And it was difficult windy conditions there at Marconi as well. But I thought Marconi controlled the game, and they definitely created the better chances. While Moreton City, they struggled to play out of the back, giving the ball away in crucial areas, and they couldn't build any pressure as Marconi just had too much control of the ball. So congratulations to Marconi, who was the first team to book themselves in the Australian Championship final. Way too strong for Moreton. They didn't really threaten much. Marconi had most of the great chances. In the other semi-final in the championships, the clash of the Titans, South Melbourne edged Heidelberg 1-0, and the football didn't disappoint with both teams showing their qualities. And it come down to two big moments for me as both teams created plenty of chances. But the moment Thomas Giannakopoulos was penalised for a shirt pull in the box and penalty, it was called for Heidelberg, and guess who stepped up? Duarch. But South Melbourne keeper Javier Lopez pulls off the save of the day, and the momentum turns. The match, only 10-12 minutes later, South Melbourne then open the scoring in the 72nd minute as the crowd goes up to celebrate the first touch of the game for McGree as he nods in at far post. And it was created by a fantastic throw-in from Max Caputo, a fairy tale moment, and it was just on. The game was elevating even further. Heidelberg threw everything at South Melbourne, but they've come up short. And South Melbourne at home beat Heidelberg 1-0 and knocked the Burgers out in a semi-final heartbreak. The final chief will be held at Olympic Village, Victoria on Saturday the 6th of December at 3 p.m. It has about a capacity of 8,000. Lakeside was unavailable for this event as already booked for athletics. So the final, congratulations to Marconi and South Melbourne who will contest, and well done to Heidelberg who've put in a massive stint throughout the Hahn Cup, the Australian Championship and the Victorian Premier League. And also two shout out to Moreton City who, they were dominated by Marconi but have had a stellar season there competing in the Australian Championships for the first time.
Yeah, very cool, mate. Love that wrap. And yeah, so it's going to be Marconi versus South Melbourne in the very first Australian Championship final. Who's your hot tip, Mopper? Who's going to take out the first Australian Championship?
I think South Melbourne, being in Victoria, Marconi I've seen on both sides of the pitch, and they're really strong against Moreton City, but I just think South Melbourne, they're a powerhouse and they're building towards this. They want this as a club. And so is Marconi, but South Melbourne just look very well positioned for the Australian Championship. They've got big aspirations, and I reckon South Melbourne probably 2-0 over Marconi. I think they'll be way too strong. I did look at the last time in the NSL when they clashed actually back in the day, back in 2003, 2004. South Melbourne beat them on the 14th of March 2004 2-0. The 7th of March, so it must have been finals or something because Marconi had a 0-0 draw with South Melbourne the week before. I had to turn back even further to February where Marconi beat South Melbourne 1-0. But back in 2003, South Melbourne beat Marconi 2-0 and it was a 2-all draw also in 2003 as well. So it's a long time since they've faced each other, almost 22, 21 years there. So what an exciting time for both. And we should see near capacity crowd of probably 8,000, I reckon, would make that ground. Obviously, the grounds were difficult to juggle because of the other commitments that's on in Victoria. But Olympic Village, Victoria, as will host the final, and we wish both teams well in what will be a cracking contest.
Yeah, congratulations to both of those teams and for all the teams that have competed in the Australian Championship. I'm going to tip Marconi to win 1-0, mate, to go on with my original tip for the Australian Championship. But let's hope that we do get a capacity crowd out there at Olympic Village because the Australian Championship definitely deserves it for everything that they've put into it. And I think it's good to see, as much as we might have wanted a bit of those fairy tale stories, it's good to see two of the foundation clubs who really pushed hard to get this Australian Championship up and running, that they get rewarded for being in the final. And one of them is going to get the honour of being the first Australian Championship winner. So very cool and something to look forward to next weekend.
Absolutely. It'll be a cracker. And well done to all participating teams in the final two. May the best team win. All right, Chief, it's team of the week time. Let's see who's in your and my top 11 with our super sub.
All right, mate. Andrew Redmayne gets the spot in goals for his consistent form, but particularly for keeping that clean sheet against Melbourne City. Miles Milliner for his performances for the Joeys. Johnny Katrumbis gets a spot in the back line as well, alongside a couple of Matildas in Ellie Carpenter and Winona Heatley. Kyra Cooney-Cross for that wonder goal for the Matildas, but also her all-around play. Oscar Priestman for his player of the match performance in his debut for Motherwell. Sam Klein for his goal, but also played really well for Brisbane Roar. Amazing his story, where he's come from to be so consistent now with Brisbane Roar. So well done to Sam. Maxi Caputo continues his hot form, so scored goal during the week for Melbourne City in the ACL Elite. Luke Vickery for his super sub performance for Macarthur the other night, and Max Court for that wonder strike for the Joeys. And who is your super sub this week, Mopper?
Well, I did mention him. It was the 4-goal hero Hazarati against the Philippines. It would put them 6-0 winners on the night. I thought that was a very special moment. My super sub Hazarati, and we wish them all the best tonight in their final game in the Asia Cup qualifiers.
All right, mate, we're almost done, but I wanted to just bring your attention to a couple of games going on overnight. Hibs with a huge clash taking on Celtic. That's going to be in a couple of hours' time as we record. Randers also back in action in Denmark. The big one for me is at 3 a.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, with Viking going up against Vålerenga to see if they can win it all, win the championship. So that would be very good for Nick D'Agostino if he's back to full fitness, and Gianni Stensness as well. Going to keep my eye on Sparta Prague as well to see if Goran Quol can get another start. He missed out during the week in the European action, but we'll see if he can get back into the lineup in the league.
Yep, absolutely. We're looking for Viking and Australian's third trophy after Kevin Muscat and Mitch Duke kicked off the trophies the other week. So good luck to the boys at 3 a.m. We'll be watching very closely and hopefully bring a third trophy home for Australian football.
Let's make that number 4 next week when Bovlina takes down Lionel Messi.
Oh, yes. Yes. Oh, mate. Vancouver. How exciting is that going to be for him? Oh, sensational. Can't wait to watch. Always plenty to look forward to, isn't there?
It's all happening as always. Of course, the Matildas, keep an eye out on that one on Tuesday night in that second game against New Zealand. We'll see what changes Joe Muntamura makes, but that's going to do us for today, mate. Thanks for your time, Mopper.
Thank you. All the best. Have a good week.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. We'll be back on Sunday next week. In the meantime, enjoy football.
All the best.